Welcome back to the Deeper 2025 podcast. I'm excited that you have joined us today as we go deeper in our walk with Christ, as we dig into His Word. And today we have read 1 Peter chapter 5. And in 1 Peter chapter 5, Peter is going to talk about embracing humility. He's going to talk about spiritual warfare and the reality of spiritual warfare. He's going to talk about the fact that there's an enemy, the devil, that wants to destroy us, that he's roaming, seeking to destroy those he can. And so as I read 1 Peter 5, I wanted to just read just a little bit of 1 Peter 5, starting in verse 6. He says, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the truth, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings." There's a lot to be said just about those verses that we read, not even talking about the rest of 1 Peter 5. I think the first thing that we see in 1 Peter 5, we've got to practice humility. We've got to realize that there are things in our life, and especially this one thing called pride, that will keep our relationship from Jesus from growing. It will keep our dependence on God from being there, because we just feel like we've got it figured out. We feel like we know better. And so we've got to practice humility. But then I love what he says there right after that. He says we've got to cast our cares or cast our anxieties on God. Not sure if you're like me. I have anxieties from time to time. I have cares. I have burdens that come up in my life. And it's a reminder in 1 Peter 5 that God is there to be one that we can bring those things to, that we cast our cares on him because he cares about us. You know, sometimes the devil wants us to think that God really doesn't care about us. How can an amazingly huge God care about you and me, as small and as insignificant as we are? But right here he says, hey, God cares for you, and he wants you to cast your anxieties or cast your burdens on him. Then he says, stay alert or be sober-minded. Man, we've got to not be lulled to sleep by this busyness of life, by the things of this world. We've got to make sure that we stay alert. There is a devil who is prowling around like a lion, seeking whom he can destroy, and he will destroy you if he can, but you've got to stay alert. I think about it this way. If you were in the African Sahara, the jungle, the plains of Africa where lions live, and you were walking through and someone just dropped you off and you had to walk through, you would be alert, would you not? Because lions typically sneak up and they use tactics, and they're very quiet. They're almost like ninjas. Lions are like the ninja animals, and they prowl and they just kind of creep up on you, and then all of a sudden, boom, they pounce on their prey. And so you got to be alert. And Peter here is saying you've got to be alert as a believer, because the enemy, the devil, wants to destroy you, and he is prowling around. He's lurking around the corner, looking to see who is not staying alert. If you're not staying alert, you are a prime target for the devil. But then he goes on to talk about, in 1 Peter 5, connecting with others. You know, we were built for community. We were built to connect with other believers. And I think that's sometimes what we miss. Sometimes we think that the Christian life is all about doing it ourselves, doing it alone. I've got news for you. Christianity is not a Lone Ranger religion. Christianity is not about doing it yourself, but it's about connecting with others in community to help each other out. When you do have these anxieties, when you do realize that you're being lulled to sleep, you need somebody sometimes just to come slap you upside the head and say, hey, knock it off, be alert. There's an enemy out there. But then the last thing that we're reminded in 1 Peter 5 is that we've got to hold on to hope, that we are going to enter into suffering. Suffering is a part of the Christian life, and suffering is a part of life in general, even if you're not a Christian. But there's this idea that sometimes when we become Christians, that all suffering goes out the door, the amazingly crazy thing to me is, as we've read through almost all of the New Testament now, you see how many God followers are continually faced with suffering, continually faced with persecution. So there's nothing biblical about thinking that when we become a Christian, that all suffering goes away. But here's what we can know, that suffering won't go away, but now we have someone who we can look to, and we can hold on to the hope that one day suffering will go away. One day suffering will not be anymore when we get to heaven. And so we are living now for our next life that will be for eternity in heaven. So remember those things. Remember to cast your cares on God. He is listening. He's ready for you to cast your cares on him. Remember that you're connected. You are created to be connected in community. Remember that you've got to stay alert, and remember that there's this hope that we all should have, that Jesus is coming again and that we will be with him for eternity.